It's come to our attention, actually, recently that there is another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reboot in the works. And this looks likely to be the worst one of them all.
And that says a lot.
That's saying a lot. It's the property. It's being done by Nickelodeon, who's actually owned by Viacom. It's going to be called Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and you can go to Den of Geek and see the artwork. And this is just god awful. I would say, obviously, we're not the target audience for this, but this looks like the typical Teen Titans, Ben 10 style of animation, style of artwork. I am at a loss to describe how horrible this is. So, okay, but this feeds into another thing. Okay, I understand you have to update it and modernize it a bit, Yeah. But at the same time, this looks this resembles Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in name only, and this feeds into another thing. I mean, this sort of reminds me of everything that's gone wrong with Man of Steel. Is where it pretty much started. Star Trek Discovery, which we always call STD, that disease of the brain.
Even 09 Star Trek.
Even 09 Star Trek. And The Last Jedi, and all that stuff, is that there's always this move towards deconstruction or changing things. And it just seems like there's this problem where these reboots and all this stuff, they don't... And I've brought this up with Tom off the air, that there was an episode of King of the Hill where hipsters had moved into Arlen. It was summed up perfectly in this line: they don't know what they want, they only know what they don't want. It seems like all these reboots, reimaginings, revisioned properties all just have a long list, a laundry list of things that they don't want to be, that they have no clear identity of their own. It's like, oh, just make sure it's not like this. Make sure it's not like that. And like I said, it's the same thing with Star Wars now, and with, like I said, with Man of Steel, with Superman, and
DC Universe.
The DC Universe. They don't know. DC Universe, all it knows is it doesn't want to be Marvel. That's all they know. Star Wars now, it knows it doesn't. The people in charge, they know they don't want it to be like the original. But the thing is, they're ripping off the originals in the process. Or the prequels and just not it. STD, they don't want to be the prime timeline. They don't want to be the TOS. They don't want to be the next generation. They don't want to be Voyager, but they don't commit to actually doing anything of their own.
Right. Well, what you're getting to is, in the process of this not wanting to be something, they in the end don't want to be what they are originally, what makes them what they are.
Yeah.
And another prime example of something that you keep bringing up is Bond, and why we say that making Bond a woman wouldn't make any sense, because it kind of defeats the purpose of who the character is. You're stripping away the core elements that character who they are.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the whole thing, well, there's also a whole idea of, well, if you don't change it, then it hasn't improved. Like, the reason why something hasn't changed in 50 years is because you got it right the first time.
Right, and that's something I always say,
Yeah, I'm going to use an example. Volkswagen, they make this pretty much the same car, the Volkswagen Golf, that they've had for the last 45 years. Yeah, okay, it looks a little bit different. There's some cosmetic changes, but underneath, it's still the same VW Golf from 1974. Okay, everything's the same. The engines are pretty much the same. The seat mounts are the same. Everything else is the same. You know why? Because it works. That's why.
Right.
I was always a fan of the Ninja Turtles. I'm like, and there's this whole idea that, oh, well, you guys are just angry, which brings me to my second point. CBR. Now, they've got it coming. They really do.
We know you love them.
Yeah, I'm gonna bitch them out for a moment here. There was an article 2 days ago. I shouldn't even call it an article, because article connotates that it has some news value with it, some newsworthiness to it.
It's an opinion piece.
It's an opinion piece, a think piece, and they've written plenty of these regarding STD and The Last Jedi over the past few weeks. A fellow by the name of Mike Fugere wrote a think piece. Dear angry TMNT fans, it may be time to let go. Now, he's saying about how you have to pass the torch. Now, go read it. I mean, just to sum up, he's saying it's time to pass the torch. You can't keep hanging on to the past. And actually, he does bring up a bit about Star Wars, about Rian Johnson, and about how fans claiming that that Rian Johnson has ruined Star Wars forever. He hasn't ruined it forever. He's only ruined it until somebody else takes hold of it that knows what they're doing. That's what I say.
Right.
But the whole idea of this is, listen, we understand things have to change. Like I said, you got to modernize. But when you get so far away from what it is, what the core elements are, then it becomes something else completely different. Don't call this Ninja Turtles. Now, I've rambled enough. Now, Tom, you're a bigger fan of TMNT than I am. I relinquish the floor to you.
Well, let me first say that...
let me just say though that just in knowing CBR always gets a boner whenever Miles Morales comes up. Okay, they get
something like that. Yeah.
They're like, and they go out of their way to talk about diversity and they and whatever. We have nothing. Don't have a problem with diversity or anything. We just have a problem with making things utterly stupid.
They really like to swing that spin to the point of, oh, if you don't like this, then you must be a racist kind of thing, is what you're saying.
Yeah, the moral grandstanding, as I call it.
Let me start off with this. I've been a Ninja Turtle fan since I can remember, and the initial versions of the Ninja Turtles that I fell in love with were quite a bit different than what they originally were. Now, of course, I went and learned who they were, and the 1990 film to this point is the closest that we've gotten, pretty much other than, say, the 2003 series, to what the original tone and intention of the Turtles were by the creators. Now, this has nothing to do with April O'Neil, so just let's get that out of the way first of all. She was never really white to begin with. That has been recorded several times. Yeah. That was changed when it came to the toys and the cartoon. Let's get all that aside. Now, going back to, yes, you got to update this stuff once in a while, and there's always going to be a new set of fans, especially for something like Ninja Turtles, because they're so accessible to kids. They're very accessible to kids. Now, I had no real issues with the Nickelodeon series that came prior to this. I'd seen a few episodes. I was like, all right, this isn't for me. I'm not the young crowd this is aiming towards, but it's not obnoxious and offensive to the original story and plot line that was set before it, like the Ninja Turtles movie from 2014 was. Now let's get into that a little bit. Real quick, that movie trampled completely all over the actual history and story of the Turtles altogether. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Basically what they did to the characters would be like if you were to retell Star Wars today, completely delete Anakin Skywalker from existence, completely delete Obi-Wan Kenobi from the existence of the story, and just have Darth Vader just be there. That's what they did to Shredder, and that's what they did to Hamada Yoshi, basically, within that story. They deleted their characters altogether, pretty much. And then you add in all the stuff that they added on top of it to make April O'Neil, because they had Megan Fox playing her. They had to shove her in everywhere they could, to the point where it was just obnoxious in the creation of the Turtles and beyond. I don't know if you've seen the 2014 film, Rob.
I saw parts of it. It was on. I think I saw parts of it on television, but it really didn't go out of my way to think. Right. But Megan Fox probably had a contract where she had to get so much screen time, so that's why. And she was a big star at the time too. So,
well, regardless, they should have called the film April O'Neil with some turtles in it. And then the Turtles themselves, because that was the thing. When I saw the design of the Turtles, I'm like, what the ever-loving fuck is this? They look like Shreks on fucking steroids. I don't know what the hell they're trying to accomplish here, and it just didn't work dynamically overall. But the look of the Turtles was the least of the issues when I finally got to the film. Now, the second film was even more of an insult. Some fans see, oh, well, it has Krang and it has Bebop and Rocksteady. No, they turned Bebop and Rocksteady into a warthog and into a rhinoceros because fuck logic, okay? I don't know if you've seen this one either, but within the context of the film, Baxter Stockman flat out says that they changed into these creatures because that was their inner beast.
I'd heard about that, yeah.
And now, if you go back to the original cartoons, which is where Bebop and Rocksteady actually originated from, between the toys and the cartoons and stuff, they actually went to the zoo and captured the creatures so they didn't get into the logistics of it. Basically, the way they set it up in the old cartoons was anything you came in contact with last and then came in contact with the mutagen, that's what you transformed in. Kind of a easy way of...
Genetic engineering, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, kind of an easy way of saying the DNA part. All you had to do in this film was have a vial of blood that said warthog blood and a vial of blood that said rhinoceros blood, and shove that into the mix and nobody would have questioned it. That's just a small piece of the problems that are in this huge mess of films that have divided an entire fan base. There was one thing that the fans were unified before on, was that the Nickelodeon series wasn't that bad. But now they decided to just scrap that series and come up with this new series. Now I gotta tell you, just from the designs and the ideas and the things that they're changing alone have got me saying, what the fuck are you doing to these characters? Okay? And then for somebody to sit there and say that we need to get over it, fuck you. We are basically the ambassadors of these franchises. You cannot say fuck you to the old fans and not expect some kind of backlash in return. Look what happened to Ghostbusters. Look at what happened to Star Trek Discovery. It's going to happen again here. You had a lot of fans who were willing to stick up for you before, but you're going to lose a lot more now, because you're changing and changing and changing and changing, and you're throwing something out that fans actually gave a shit about, which was the Nickelodeon series, into this now.
Look at what's happening currently with Star Wars too. I mean, look at what's happening with Star Trek. I mean, yeah. I mean, like I said, it's we need new fans. I'm like, you don't need new. You do, yeah. You need new fans, but you need to keep
not
the
at
older
expense of the old ones.
You need to keep the older fans on the treadmill. I mean,
you got to listen to what they want too, and they will definitely be on board for certain changes as long as they make sense and they feel organic. DC is a perfect example of this. The reason why Superman worked for 75 years before Man of Steel was because he was pretty much perfect the way he was. The only things that needed to change were the things around him. You know?
Yeah.
There was a reason why Bryan Singer said, the only way we're going to be able to make this work is if we kind of do what they did before and just update it, which is what he did with Superman Returns. Granted, how you feel about that film or not aside, never have I heard anybody say that, yeah, Brandon Routh sucked as Superman. They got that all fucking wrong. Have you ever heard anybody say that?
No.
About the movie? No. Okay, that's my point exactly. At least he understood the character. Sure, the story was stupid. There was some stuff in it that didn't make sense, and he was setting up a bigger story to happen later on that never happened. We get that. But the point is he understood that there was things about this character that made Superman Superman, and Richard Donner understood that, and the people came before that understood that. So he had to carry that torch and just kind of add to it, not deconstruct it, not take it apart and put it back together, missing 70 parts in the process. There's a way you can do these things and update them and make them relevant, but not lose what they're about to begin with. Rob, please, just tell me now. You know how you can do this. Tell them it's 007. Go back and look at how they've advanced over the years. I've never actually gotten into the movies, but I know Rob can tell you. They know what they're doing. Even through their missteps, they learn through every mistake that this is how you keep updating a character. That the character doesn't change, the world changes around him.
Yes, and you can show, like I said, you can show him clash with that world too. I mean, that makes it more interesting.
Captain America.
Like I said, when something works, there's a reason why it works, because they got it right the first time.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why they haven't remade Back to the Future. Is because it's because, like I said, Robert Zemeckis says no. There's no reason to. We got it right the first time.
Or as Huey Lewis would sing, lightning never strikes twice.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, there's so many ways you can embrace the past and update something without deconstructing it and pushing away what it was originally. And that's what a lot of these creators are doing now, and they think it's just like you said, to be hip, to be cool, to be trendy, to be dark, to be
This is what audiences want. They tell themselves this is what audiences want, and they listen to the bean counters, they listen to the experts. Yeah. There's a great interview actually with Frank Zappa. He was talking about, and we don't get to talk music, but this feeds into this discussion. He said about the music industry is a lot more conservative now than it was back in the 60s. He goes, you had the guys, the old guys with the cigars and their feet up on the desks. They would see something and goes, I don't know what this is, but hey, let's take a chance on it. Let's see if it sells. And they put it out there and it sells. The hell if I knew what happened, but it sold. All right, we need to do this again. Go find me a hippie. So they find a hippie. A hippie comes in. He brings in the mail. He brings the coffee. He says, all right, he's a good kid. He's brought the coffee on time. All right, we'll give him a job. Give him an A&R man. He's an A&R man. And they're the ones that start saying, no, no, no. The hippies start saying, no, no, no.
Right.
We can't do this. That's not what the audience wants. I know what the audience wants. And they are more conservative. They're, than the guys with the cigars, The hippie, eventually, he gets the job where he puts his feet up on the desk, and then he becomes the final arbiter of taste. And that's what's happening in the movie and film industry, too. You have the people who think that they were the audience once upon a time, and they're saying, no, 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 I know what the audience wants. And they're making all these stupid fucking decisions one after the other.
right? And what makes it even worse is we live in a day and age now where they can actually get instant feedback on something, yet they always learn the wrong fucking lesson every time. Perfect example we keep bringing up is Wonder Woman. I didn't care for the film all that much. I don't think you've seen it yet, but regardless, you had a perfect situation where a character that was a strong female character for over 75 years had a hit film. Why? Because you pretty much stuck to what she was, and you didn't try to, get too crazy like you had with the last few films, and it worked for what it was. And she's an established, well done female character. Now, as opposed to going and trying to make the Ghostbusters characters all female, or somebody else all female, and this, that, and the other, and trying to make, like we said before, James Bond into a woman, you got tons and tons of characters that have worked forever. Work with those first before you start trying to fuck with shit that already works. Something like Ninja Turtles that has worked for 30 plus years now, and they decided to finally fuck with it even more. I'm not saying that, yes, it had an X mutation and a few other bad moments within its past. Every franchise has. But for the most part, they've always stuck to the core elements of what made them what they are. Once they started fucking with them is when they started to become unsavory to a large part of the fan base. And that's what we're getting at.
Actually, there's this whole thing. Well, we have to make it different. Oh, well, it has to stand out. It has to be different. Well, you take a look at it. It stood out back then. It still stands out now.
The reason the Ninja Turtles worked was because they were so different to begin with. I'm not saying you can't change their looks a little bit or what. They've had several different looks in several different ways. But the characters and the stories have generally all been the same.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, so...
Yeah, we beat this to death, but it's important. It's something I wanted to rant about. This is something we've stressed time and time and time again here on Minute's Edge. When people ask, what is the problem and what do they need to do to fix it? All you need to do to fix it is embrace the past while...
Yeah, figure out what made these characters work and do that.
And push them forward that way instead of trying to just deconstruct them and make them something they're not to begin with, because then what's the point? Make something new if you want to do that. Make the, insipid, crazy, flippin' frogs instead of fucking with the turtles,
Exactly.
Because that's what they fucking look like.
Well, let us know what you guys
think. Yeah.